only alternative left to us under the circumstances. The enemy had occupied the hills behind us, and their bullets were cutting through the air above our heads and driving into the mud at our feet. We had only 3 companies to block the enemy's advance, and they were quite a distance from us. There was only 1 guard company protecting those of us in the Central Committee office, and Mao had only 1 platoon of bodyguards, with Yan Changlin as the platoon leader. In the event of a charge by the enemy, there would only be a little over 100 of us against several tens of thousands of them. Ren Dizhe, then Secretary of the Secretariat of the Central Committee, was in charge of taking us across the river. But negotiating that river was no easy thing. The swollen river surged along with deafening roar, its towering waves threatening to submerge the whole world. The goatskin rafts were capsized the moment they were lowered into the river, and, tossed like leaves, disappeared in the angry rapids. Caught between a formidable river and several tens of thousands of pursuing troops, I, for all my experience as a seasoned soldier, could not help feeling a little scared. Mao looked grim, but retained his composure. He lifted 2 fingers, and pressing them lightly against each other, said, "Give me a cigarette." It wasn't said loudly, but it reverberated like thunder over those of us accompanying him on the march. "Get him a cigarette, quick! Comrade Gershon wants a smoke." "Comrade Gershon wants a smoke?" "A smoke! A smoke! A smoke!" Li Dersheng was Mao's assumed name when he fought in northern Shanxi. He had stopped smoking for some time on account of poor health, so his bodyguards were not carrying any cigarettes. And with all of us drenched to the skin by the successive downpours, who would have dreamt of being asked for cigarettes? Mao sat down on a rock, still holding his fingers up, finding that he had been kept waiting for too long. He flared up, roaring, "Where is my cigarette?" Comrade Dersheng was angry. Immediately, every one of us began to search our pockets for cigarettes. Then those down the column were heard talking excitedly as Mao's horsekeeper walked up, followed by a noisy crowd, beaming happily. What a welcome sight! The horsekeeper was carrying matches and cigarettes wrapped in a piece of yellow oilcloth. Immediately the guards, as instructed by Zhou and Lai, spread a light cotton-padded quilt over Mao. Still deep in thought, Mao lit his cigarette. He took long puffs at it, watching it burn. Then he held his breath, and we all followed suit, gazing at the blue smoke rising from the cigarette. Loud gun reports could be heard, but Mao seemed totally oblivious of them. A deep furrow formed between his eyebrows. Then puffs of smoke began to escape from his nostrils and between his teeth, but before they were completely exhaled, they were drawn back forcibly with a loud hiss. In what seemed like a fraction of a second, or an eternity, the cigarette burned down to a mere stub. All of a sudden, Mao rose from the rock, and throwing away what remained of the cigarette with a vengeance, declared in an earth-shaking voice, "We are not going to cross the Yellow River." Mao resumed his walk along the river fork, his steps steady, unhurried. His bodyguard ran up to him, but Mao dismissed him in irritation. Alone, he walked in the front, facing a thicket of enemy guns, followed by several hundred of us. In a confrontation like this, a single shot from the enemy troops, to say nothing of a hail of bullets, would have been enough to change the course of history. But miraculously, all the enemy guns fell silent as Mao walked past them for a few hundred meters, until he disappeared beyond a mound. Bang! It sounded like a gun going off accidentally, or a salute to Mao Zedong. And then, as if startled from sleep, the enemy troops opened fire, filling the air with their din. This dramatic confrontation with the enemy troops was to be repeated 3 or 4 times during the war in northern Shanxi. Ignoring the gun reports, Mao sat down to take a break and sang a few lines from a Beijing opera aria. After the break, Mao walked up a hill. Halfway up, he stopped in a village that had 70 or 80 households in it. It was a small hill with scarcely any trees or water. There was a temple there called the White Dragon Temple, apparently for the convenience of praying for rain. As Mao's visit to the village was accompanied by a downpour, the villagers took him as the incarnation of the dragon. Down the hill, Liu Kan's troops bivouacked, the bonfires they built stretching as far as the eye could see. That night, Mao slept on the hill. He snored loudly whilst the rain poured down.
You're listening to Alight on Literature, CRI's presentation of timeless works of Chinese literature. Today's narration by Ian Reid is taken from the biographical work Mao Zedong, Men, Not God.